Good day, everybody. My name is Cedric Matebula from Orbit College, Mankwe campus, and I'll be taking you through Labor Relations and 6 Module 1. I believe that we all know that our module, Labor Relations, is a study of a human science, which is very important and complex to deal with people. And in this case, we are going to look at the following. One, we'll have to be able to, the objectives, illustrate the relationships or maybe the labor relations system using a diagram or a drawing. You must also be able to briefly explain the link between external input and the internal input. Then you must at the end be able to look at the output and also be able to make list of the structures, the procedures and the processes that are found when you are dealing with the labor relation issues or maybe solving the labor related conflicts. We are going to look into the system that is well known as the ILO system. It's input, process and output. Then we are going to look at the illustration of the labor relations system in a form of a drawing. It's 3 columns. And the first one is divided into 2 because we've got 2 sources that influence the labor relations. One, we've got the external, which is the external environment that one cannot be able to change in terms of management skills, but however, you must come up with the strategies to adapt. And under the external environment, we have economy. It's known as the economic system. We have politics or political system. We've got our social system. Then we've got our legal system. These are the 4 systems that appears under the external input of the labor relations. Then we go to the internal input. Internal input, these are the things that we find or that influence the labor relations within the system. We are studying the relationship between 2 people, employer, employee within a workplace. Now what you're going to find from them, usually you'll be asked to illustrate this part. 1, we are looking at the 3 parties relationship or the tripartite relationship. 3 parties. 1 is the state. After the state we say, or remember that state is the secondary party in the relationship. The primary parties then will be the employer. Employer cannot be separated from the employer's organization. Then the third one or the last one will be the employees themselves. That cannot be separated from the trade union. Now this is how our structure is going to look like. It's going to look like it's a triangular form because we have the internal parties. 1 is the state, then employer and employer organization. Then we've got the employees and the trade union. Then in the system, we then realize that all these 3 parties, each has a goal. The state, they want a good country, they want good international market, they want investors. Then we've got the employer and the employees. And we also have power. Employer has the power to hire, to dismiss. The employee, they also have the power to hold their skills or to leave their companies. If this power and goals are not balanced, then they result into what you call a conflict. We can have a conflict. A conflict can be anything that can lead to a non-harmonious environment or maybe can disturb a harmonious, peaceful working environment. Then we say it's power, value, and goals or objectives. So this is what you often requested to do when they ask you to illustrate the inputs or internal inputs in the labor relations. Usually this side, they'll ask you to discuss. But I just want us to concentrate on the illustration. Then, in your textbook, you'll realize that here it's written convention. The conversion process or the transformation. Then here, these are the methods or mechanisms or ways that we can use to resolve the labor-related issues. We can use the structures, meaning that in the labor market, there are structures. One of the structures that we have is the bargaining council. We've got the conciliation board, bargaining council, conciliation board. We also have other things that we'll have to look at. In terms of this, it will be the processes. The processes that you are going to come across will be mediation, it will be arbitration. These are the processes that can unfold when you deal with employees within a workplace. Then we also have what you call in-house procedures. In other textbook, it will be written the in-company procedures or the in-company negotiation methods or the ways that we can use to resolve. It will depend on you how you get the question. The question might say, discuss in-house procedures, list the in-house procedures. So the procedures that we have in the labor relations, when we're dealing with the issues, one, we've got disciplinary procedure. We've got the grievance. This one we'll deal mostly with it in module 6. Grievance procedure. We also have the dispute resolution procedure. After the dispute resolution procedure, we have what we call an appeal, because sometimes decisions are taken against employees that they are not happy about, and this is what we need to do. If they ask you to illustrate the whole structure, then these are the things that you are going to write. The last portion will be now the output. The output side, we are going to look at, we've got two types of the outputs. When you go for bargaining, or you go to negotiate, or you go to disciplinary hearing, usually the outcomes will be substantive agreements. These are the agreements that we reach them through guidance or through a particular legal framework. There are legal prescripts that tells us how to achieve this. Secondly, we have what you call procedural agreements. These are the agreements that we reach after following a particular procedure or following the particular step in order for us to arrive to make this particular decision. Then lastly, if employer and employee, they cannot reach agreement or any of these two agreements, then we can have what you call a conflict. We have what you call a conflict, and what is a conflict in this case? A conflict can actually result into violence. It can be dismissals, because now the employer will have to retaliate as well. So it's going to be conflict, it's going to be violence, it can be dismissal, or it can be anything that will affect the relationship and eventually result into the loss of production, employees' absenteeism, or even the company being closed. That was the first objective, to illustrate. This is the illustration. When they say illustrate, you draw the structure. You know exactly what falls under each of the structure. The second objective, we said, we need to know the link between internal and external input, and also the link between the output and the external. What one needs to remember is that the labor relation process is like a process of making a tea. You will never know whether it's sweet or bitter until you get it tested. You can never know whether the sausage is good until you put together your means and your spices together. Those are the two examples given in your textbooks. So now for us to know the link, at the bottom of the table, we've got what you call a feedback loop. And you'll see that it has arrows to every column. These arrows indicate that feedback is the link to all these other columns. It's only once you've got an employee or you've got a company makes a profit, it goes to hire employees, they put together their objectives, and we have the disciplinary process that this employee is familiar with, has been trained, and is also aware of the grievance procedures that we've put in place in terms of when he or she is not happy. Therefore, we are likely to have good substantive agreements, or will have good procedural agreements, or if these are not put into place or used effectively, then will result into a violence dismissal, and that will affect our workplace relations. So this is the second objective, understanding the link between internal and external inputs, then the conversion process, and the output. The other objective, we're supposed to look at the structures that we have already discussed, that we can be able now to explain, or we can now be able to list. They do not only end to this bargaining council and collective bargaining or the cancellation boards, but they will now include the shop steward committee. They will also include the safety committee in a workplace. These are the structures that you are going to come across. And even these processes, the arbitration, the mediation, they do not only end here, but they continue to include issues such as a process for a legal strike, or maybe for employer to lock out the employee. Remember, a lockout is a opposite of a strike. The employees have got a right to strike, but the employer also have the right to respond to that industrial action in a form of using a lockout. Now, what I want us to look at or to discuss here, it's about the external input or the influences from the external environment. One must be able at least to discuss all these factors that influence our labor relations externally. One, we talked about economy or economic system. Under the economic system, what we are going to discuss is going to be all different types of the markets that are available. One of the markets that is available, it's a product market. What is it that we produce? If the mine produced copper, or maybe they produced diamonds, and there is a demand for that particular output, therefore, that type of the company can easily respond positively to employees' demand for salary increase, can easily respond to employee demand for fancy housing, good allowances, transportation, and all those fringe benefits. But in situation where the product is no longer in demand or does not make any profit, then the employer will likely need more pressure, or will need employees to be a bit persuasive for them to agree, or maybe to surrender, or maybe to come to an agreement with regards to their salary increase or employee benefits and so on. The second one is the labor market. With regards to the labor market, we actually referring to the types of skills, the set of talents that is available. We've got semi-qualified, unskilled, or technical skills that are available in our labor market. So a company within an area or within a country where there is a high, people with possession of the technical skill, this company is going to pay or to experience demand for higher or for reasonable salary increase. But in situations like South Africa, we don't have technical skills. Therefore, we often outsource or we get people from outside to come and perform those tasks that requires technical skill. That makes our labor for technical skill very expensive. But we've got other soft skills such as admin, secretarial courses, or maybe occupations that actually are not really much difficult to replace an employee. So our labor market, has surplus of soft skills than technical skills. Then again, under the economic system, we have another market here, which one can look at and refer to it as economy in terms of the finance, monetary market. The monetary market, it's more about two policies, fiscal policy and monetary policy. This one, the money market, it will refer to the country's total income and expenditure. With a country that has a higher production or has good GDP, therefore this company or the country, when it gets people, they can easily agree to higher salaries or maybe to try to improve the employee's life. But in situation where our country is in a very bad economic situation, then it's going to be very difficult. And again, under the money market, or when you deal with the monetary and the fiscal policy, one will have to look at the issues such as tax, we look at the repo rates, we look at our employees' ability to afford the houses or their credibility, because some of the things at the money market, you're looking at what is it that employees will be able to afford on credit. Because if we are paying a salary that is below the cost of living or cost, we pay below cost of living. Therefore, we are going to experience more industrial action with demands to a salary increase. And if we cannot respond to that positively, there will be violence, dismissal, and strike. Then we are going to politics. The political system, the two things that we are going to discuss under politics, one, it's a legislature and amendments. Amendments, one will remember that we are talking about the labor relations 66 of 1995. But this labor relations 66 of 1995 has been amended depending on different political eras or phases in our country, and this has influence on this particular aspect. So the more we've got changes in politics, on legislature, and on amendments, this will automatically affect our labor relations. We are living in a situation where we are perceived to be democratic, and in a democratic country, we have a free market system where anybody can open a company and become an employer. And in that case, not anybody who comes into the labor market or maybe into the economic system, open business with the money to pay or to respond to the economic demands of the employees, cannot necessarily have money to pay salaries, cannot have necessary money to cope with rent. Therefore, that will have an impact on the labor relationships within the workplace. The other part that we have to discuss is the society, the social system. With the social system here, we're going to look at the values of the people, we look at the objectives, we look at the goals, we look also even at the background of this particular thing. In most of our villages in South Africa, we realize industrial actions where you find that the community, they complain about a particular company not being able to employ them because they feel like jobs are being given to the foreigners. But in a situation where you find that there is a social aspect, maybe the standard of living or maybe the skills available within the particular society do not meet the needs of the company or the employer. Therefore, the employer will obviously go and look for an employee outside. But in situation where we find that the standard of living in the community is well improved, the health system, there is an infrastructure, therefore the company is likely to make more profit, we are likely to have more peace and harmony in that workplace, and we can make more profit. Then we've got what you call the legal system. The legal system in our case, we are looking at, we'll start with the Constitution as the source of law. In terms of our Constitution, we know that the Constitution of South Africa, that was actually asserted or approved by Parliament in 1994. This Constitution talks about the basic human rights. So in the labor market, we've got people. These are not just resources, but they are also human beings with all the basic human rights. Therefore, within the company, we still have the right of life, we've got the right of safety, health that we need to comply, and we need to make sure that the employees actually, basic human rights are respected and are taken care of. Then that is what is going to influence us here in terms of the legal system. I hope we enjoyed this lecture. Please continue with an activity in your workbook. One, the first question, it asks about the sources. These are the two sources. It's internal and external sources of the labor. Then it asks you to list the system. These are the system without them being discussed. When we recap our lesson, I want us to look at what we are supposed to do. Remember, this is a 10% of the syllabus. Then we did illustrate. We've understood the structure. The second part, on the external and internal inputs link, you still remember that the feedback, it's always the link between all these components. And in terms of listing the structures and the in-house policies, please always have at least 4 in mind. You've got the bargaining council, the conciliation board, the shop steward, and then you also have the safety committees. The processes, there can be more than 4 because it's not only mediation arbitration, you've got strike, lockouts, and work stoppages. And lastly, remember to be in position to discuss at least 2 of this system, although it's very important to know all of them. Understand what we just talk about, elements that we find in the social system, the elements of the political system, and under the economic system. Whenever you see the term economic system, remember we refer to all different types of markets. There are 6 of them. I've only discussed 3. Please check in your textbook and master them. Thank you.